Eli Hinton back to the bottom, 6 to go.
Makes a mistake again. He missed a shift. He's going to spin to the inside turn. He's going to take the lead.
Eli Hinton just got used up there in the hairpin. He's going to pick up a win after a long winless streak in Visit Victory Lane. And the whole field just needs to get themselves slowed down, hop these curves, up and over. There's that cannon running a tad wide. Great restart here for the 2 car, but also for the 48. He crosses him over, down into turn 1, there goes the tail. Here comes the 20 alongside. The 13 car gets turned. He's going to spin in turn 2.
The 3WideRacing Cup Series has had a very eventful start to the season, but now we head to the 1-mile Dover Speedway here. It's known as the Monster Mile for a couple reasons. It eats up tires, and it eats up cars, and it eats up drivers' abilities to focus. 200 laps tonight on the 1-mile Speedway, high banks, high speeds. It's going to be incredible action here in round number 6. Hi, my name's Kyle Heyer alongside Brian New tonight, filling in for Phineas. He's still off in Neverland doing not as much fun things as I did last weekend, but back home from Grid Life Midwest out in South Haven, Michigan, and back home in Rochester, New York to bring you tonight's race number 6, the RaceKings Cup Series from Dover. And Brian, well, you filled in for me this weekend at Dover for the Outsiders race. And I didn't catch a whole lot of that, but I assume the action was pretty good. We're going to get to do it again here tonight with about 30 cars.
That was a fantastic race, I have to admit. It was a much better race than I thought it was going to be, because this track can definitely cause some carnage. So I'm really hoping for a good show again tonight.
Chuck Sweeting out on track right now, the current provisional pole sitter with a 22.584 lap time, about a 10th quicker than Chad Frankenfield, who was quickest in practice, but we still have about a minute and a half to settle this whole qualifying situation. A lot of cars yet to go. Matt Gruenberg, he's been quick. He's won a bunch of races, including last night's Yunzer Truck Series race at Eldora Speedway, so he's good on the dirt, and he's might be good here tonight on the concrete as he rolls out of turn 4, and Sweeting continues to hold the pole, but will Gruenberg be able to knock him off across the line? Where's the 54 slot in? A 22.917, that's only going to be good enough for, it looks like it'll be 15th, but he actually didn't log a time, so I'm wondering if that was his outlap here. And across the line this time through, we'll see the 54 stacks up. I think this is probably one of the cars to beat tonight as he comes across the line with 57 seconds left in qualifying. He'll jump up to a 23.131, and still no score on the monitor for me. I'm not sure if that's happening.
I'm not seeing anything either.
Not sure why that is. For some reason, that lap time didn't get recorded, so Gruenberg feeling some frustration here, and he comes across the line this time. We'll see, will it log it? 23.099. It didn't record those laps for the 54.
Not recording his laps.
That is really interesting.
Take a look. It doesn't look like we've got any kind of connection issues with him.
Well, he might have scraped the fence on his actual laps and ended up just being out here for practice. I think that might be the case, but either way, no time scored for the 54 Matt Gruenberg, and he's going to have to start towards the rear of the field. 22 cars qualified, but Chuck Sweeting is going to be on pole for this one, alongside Chad Frankenfield in the 15. So, Brian, tonight, 200 laps, and taking a look at our conditions this evening, 73 degrees in the air, 114 on the track, and 13 miles an hour of wind out of the northwest. That is a hot track temp. It has just cooled off a little bit to 100 for the race, but the concrete slicks up quite a bit. The rubber, you can already see it's quite black, but it's going to get even darker. We've seen multiple grooves kind of work here lately in NASCAR. Do you think tonight's going to be a single-line race, and what did you see on Saturday?
Yeah, I was just going to say Saturday, it was on the restarts, the bottom line was the place to be for sure. 3-4 laps in, one line up from the bottom was the fast line by far. People could make passes happen on the outside in that one groove up.
Interesting to note that. So again, we're going to have a pretty strong wind out of the northwest. This racetrack is very narrow. The banks are high, so it's definitely a challenging racetrack. The other thing is we talk about takeoff and landing here at Dover, Brian. And landing is when you go off into the corner and the banking, a lot of racetracks, it rises up and you climb the banking. But here, you kind of fall down into a hole and you drop down into it as the inside line falls away. So that presents some very interesting handling challenges for these race car drivers, and also can make the cars really understeery when they get on that bump stop and slide up the hill. So managing that's going to be important. But that 26 is Sweeting. I think he's got a new paint scheme on here this week, and it's a sharp looking red, number 26.
Yeah, you talk about dropping down into the corners here. At the same time, when you're exiting the corners, you're coming up out of a hole, and there's actually a bump coming out of turn 2 and turn 4. So the car wants to get very light and very loose coming out of the corners here.
Oh, looks like that's a good point you make there, Brian. But that front row, it's got Chevrolet and a Ford on it. Behind him, a pair of Toyotas, then Ford, Chevy, Toyota. The rest of, I believe that I just called out the top 10 there. So field's about ready to roll off on their pace lap again. 200 laps on the evening. Sweeting will pull out onto the racetrack. Pit stops. Probably going to see some green flag stops here. Once this track spreads out, it tends to be pretty clean and green. But the question is, do you think we're going to see a long green flag runs tonight? Or do you think we're going to kind of have some yellows at the beginning like we saw in the early part of the season here in 3-wide?
I wouldn't be surprised with some early yellows, but I think we get to the middle part of this race, the middle 100 laps or so, and I think we're going to see some green flag, which was really going to make for some interesting racing. I'm not sure, do they have a fuel cap for this series?
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what the percentage is, but it's not very much. So they're
right.
They will be shortened by probably about 30 to 45% that fuel run. So especially the higher downforce as well makes that run even shorter. And now
yes.
the car rolls through turns 3 and 4. 200 laps on tap for tonight. Chuck Sweeting in that 26, again on pole. A very strong start for that 26. Let's see if he can round it out and get himself a victory this season. Well, SYM TV's back from the grid life death and back in the sim racing world. The graphics are a little bit lower, but green flag flies racing at Dover. 3 wide behind him. That's the 48 of Velez up the middle. Dropped a bunch of spots in the points after last round at Bristol, and trying to recover some of that 4th spot. Drop it up towards the front, side by side. There's Tate Lytle. He's a winner this season. It got Josh Adams to his outside, also a winner this season in that number 95 car.
Watching this leader here, the 26 car, he's in the 15, seemed to have gotten a little bit of a gap here and pulled away. There was a driver or two on Saturday that was really able to pull a gap and just run away with the field.
Side by side behind us, David Wilson on the, I think that's Paul Ross that he's on the outside of there, but battle for the lead. You mentioned it, Brian, that 15 of Frankfield trying to close in on leader Chuck Sweeting. 2 laps complete here at Dover, a long way to go, but those front 2 separated out, but now Sweeting begins to gap them behind. That 95 of Josh Adams is all over the back of the 56 of Lytle as they continue to fight down the back straight.
Such a tough track here. Very abrasive surface. Just choose the tires up, and once the tires go, you kind of get through a period of loose in the beginning, and then it tightens up as that right front tire goes, and then it gets loose again as the rear tires go. So quite a bit of handling woes that these drivers are going to have to deal with tonight.
Absolutely. I do think some of those handling woes will be mitigated by the fact that we're running the higher downforce aero package this season, Brian. So that's going to help the handling a lot. In seasons past, I'd be really worried about drivers smashing into the wall, but they have a lot more downforce to play with, but also a lot more aero push to be worried about as they make their way through the corner. So don't get yourself in trouble following a car too closely. But so far early in the going, here's the 52 of Justin Kolb, the inside of the 8 of Richard Lafferty. This is going to be a pass for 10th.
Yeah, you mentioned it there. On Saturday, the drivers were definitely talking about that aero bubble. You get right up behind the car, just like the 15 is tucked up on the 26, and all of a sudden that front end just pushes. You lose all that front grip because you lose all the air off the front end, and it's really hard to get the car turned.
Great battle going on for about 10th place here. Josh Adams has slipped up into the 3rd spot, but still over a second behind leader Chuck Sweeting. Almost 10 laps complete here early. There is Paul Ross in the 18 car, who started tonight in 20th place. He's up 4 spots already, looking for 5 on the rear bumper of Johnny Thomas. Looks to the outside and has to kind of tuck back in line here. And Paul Ross has been steadily climbing the point standings as we enter tonight, so trying to look to get himself even further up and on an early climb, but back up towards the lead. Frankenfield does not let that 26 get away.
No, those two are tucked up pretty tight.
I think it was Sweeting get a little loose out of turn 2, and once the freshness starts to wear off in those Goodyears, might see a bit more sideways cars out of turns 2 and turn 4. But right now, these top 2 separated by only 1/10 of a second. Johnny Thomas was slow through turns 3 and 4 and managed to get back up in front of the 18 of Paul Ross. There's the 22 of Race Clark way up the racetrack and kind of diamonding the corner, exiting low. That's an interesting line there.
Yeah, I saw some other guys doing that the other night, too. Seemed to work for a few people.
Lane up off the bottom, but maybe you want to go in up high and exit low. All sorts of different options here, but those front 2 separated by about 2/10 of a second. Let's jump back deeper in the field. There's Carlos Acosta and Kevin Giadricic fighting for 23rd. A little bit surprised in the effort by Giadricic. I would have thought he would have qualified better, but started in 24th and has gone absolutely nowhere. He's running exactly where he started. Looks like Ross has gotten around Johnny Thomas for the 15th spot. And right behind you see Kyle Hanshaw in the 20th position, that number 46 KHR Toyota Camry. He dropped 4 spots at Bristol last week as well, so he's looking to kind of stop that fall after a poor week at the short track.
Yeah, Bristol's one of those tracks you just never know how that place is going to go.
It didn't go well for either the 46 or the 48. Here is Ross and Race Clark fighting for 14th now as they work their way off into turn number 1. And Ross on an upward climb at the moment. Race Clark really driving hard off the corner. Clark started in 13th. He's dropped 1 spot, might lose another one to the 18 here shortly. And all clean and green so far here, Brian. And can't say I'm not a little bit surprised. I thought we'd have a bit more trouble getting into this run, but these guys have done an excellent job so far, getting spaced out, giving each other plenty of room as we note that battle for the lead has kind of fizzled out as Frankenfield's dropped off. He was about 1/10.5 slower last time. He's a half a second back from Sweeting now.
Yeah, really loving this. That 22 car, I'd rather the 18 car, I think is going to have a hard time getting by the 22. That high line, we've gotten far enough into this race that I think that high line has really come in. It's already showing its speed, and that 18 car is going to have to get on the outside of the 22, push the 22 down to the bottom to be able to make a pass happen. Riding
on board the gyro cam here on Paul Ross's machine. A ton of banking here at Dover, and we mentioned how much it feels like you're dropping into position. Well, the gyro cam just shows you how much that banking you have to lean on here, but sometimes you wish it was more. This is a very, very fast racetrack for being a 1-miler, so a lot of banking to lean on. Wow, that's the 63 of Stevens, all sorts of out of shape right in front of Race Clark. And Stevens is in 13th now. He backed up a 22 right into Paul Ross's clutches.
And as I say that, the only other thing that can happen there is something in front could mess that up for Race Clark.
Sam Close and Tate Lytle fighting for 4th. Close leads that battle in that 4th spot. But Tate Lytle has been awful quick here this year, especially on the 1-mile racetracks. He really won at, I don't know if it was at Phoenix or if it was at another racetrack, but he's been awful good this year, has a victory to his name, closing in on that 5 for 4th place. Let's jump back deep in the field. Brent Miller in the 89, slow out of turn 4. That'll let Luis Salmaso in the 4 car get to his inside. Salmaso didn't get a great lap in qualifying. He started deep in the field, and he has only managed to gain 2 spots. Jaws Graphics on the side of that 4 car this week, and I know Jaws Graphics does their schemes week in and week out, but that one is especially colorful this evening, and he'll pick up a spot for 23rd. Corey Lindsay in the 00, that's a Glory Motorsports car fighting an incredible battle. There's Grunberg in 17th. Remember, he didn't get a qualifying lap in. Whoa, Clark all out of shape out of turn 2, pulls down to the inside lane. Does he have a problem? He'll stay on track, but almost crashed out of turn 2. Let's quickly take a jump back and look at that replay. And it was Paul Ross right in front of him. Ross pulls up, and woo! The 22 probably just tried to stand in the throttle a bit too much. And almost looped it. Oh no, Kyle Hanshaw all out of shape on the back straight. He managed to catch it as well, but he'll lose a spot to that 22. So the 46, almost the same thing happened to him.
It's just so easy to get loose coming out of these corners here. Just a touch too much throttle. You hit that bump, the rear end gets light, and around she goes.
We're watching the replay there. You can see the 46 actually hit that bump, and he caught the wall a little bit when he jumped over that bump. So he struggled there quite a bit, but now got that thing turned right in the right direction. Now 20th place. Clark high up in the racetrack in 3 and 4. He's been trying that upper groove. Doesn't seem like there's a ton of pace way up there yet, but he's certainly trying. Right behind you see Cogswell in the 27, all over Hanshaw for 20th. And then Jadrsic in the 42, who started in 24th. He's managed to only gain 2 spots. Josh Adams has fallen a couple spots too. Oh, he's off the pace. Josh Adams pulling into pit lane here, Brian.
Well, that's interesting development there.
I'm not sure what is going on in that 95 camp. I didn't see anything necessarily go wrong. He was running in front of the 5 of Sam Close. And then just pulls off the racetrack. So he's got an issue in that cockpit. And down into pit lane here on lap number 22. I think it's definitely too early for pit stops, I would say.
I would think so, for sure.
Unless he's trying to break
considering everyone else is still out and running.
I think the only thing he could be doing, he's taking 4 tires and fuel here. Maybe he's just trying to split this race up differently than everybody else and has a strategy in mind, but I still think this is kind of a strange one to go with. But let's see what
it seems. It seems awfully early in the race to be pulling any kind of strategy other than stick with the group.
No, there's something definitely wrong here. Could be a penalty as well, but 28 seconds in the pit box, I'm starting to think that he had to go somewhere. I can't even tell if he's in the car. Trying to get a better look at it. Oh, there he goes now. So a 37-second pit stop for the 95. Not sure what happened there, but he's going to lose several laps. Probably 3 by the time this is all said and done. And there goes Sweetings to put him 3 laps down.
And can't see any damage.
No, he didn't hit anything. He just pulled off the racetrack. So could be a penalty. He might have jumped the start potentially. Either that or changed lanes on the initial start, which could land you a timed penalty, or just a lap penalty at that. So that could be what we saw there. But until we get further confirmation, not sure. Austin Derbyshire is down a lap early here. He has not been to pit road, but doesn't have a whole lot of pace here, it looks like, this evening. Lafferty and Grunberg. Grunberg's all the way up to 10th here, Brian. Holy cow, he's jumped up a bunch of spots from 23rd to 10th in 26 laps.
You know what? It makes me wonder if he hasn't gotten a real good handle on his throttle foot there and just taking advantage of some guys getting loose coming out of corners.
And he takes away 9th place. You mentioned that have a good throttle foot. Well, he's had a good throttle foot and a good line foot because he just found his way around everyone easily. And he doesn't have the best lap on the racetrack by any stretch of the imagination, but he's just charging through the field.
And Josh Adams just got one of his laps back.
Those fresh tires will do you a lot of good.
Fresh tires.
So, again, he's still got a long way to go. Good news is, if you're going to have something like that happen, it's better to have it happen early in the going so you have a lot of time to recover. Still about 170 laps to go, which was the length of the race that you broadcasted on Saturday, Brian. So we know that's basically an entire race length left. So don't count them out just yet.
Exactly. A lot can happen.
Tomaso and Hanshaw fighting for 22nd. Hanshaw's begun to slip down the order. Had a scary moment a few laps ago, but now just finds himself without pace. And Brent Miller, Carlos Acosta. It seems like passing, I would say passing's difficult, but Grunberg has passed a ton of cars. But cars that we normally expect to see up front, like Acosta, McEvoy, Wade Lear, these guys have just struggled this evening.
Well, I think it's so counterintuitive here. That high line is where you want to be to make a pass happen. So you, as a lead car, your instinct is to get to the bottom to defend, but that's not where you need to be to defend the pass.
And we continue to see a battle of Jeff McEvoy and Richard Hines in the 2. This is a battle for 26th. And up front, it's been all Chuck Sweeting, 2.1 seconds over Chad Frankenfield, working our way 31 laps into this race. Now we would start to expect pit stops in the next 20 to 25 laps, maybe a bit less than that if you want to take advantage of some fresh tires over the field.
So I know Saturday they had an 80% fuel cap, and they could go 58 laps on fuel.
Yeah, I think we're less than that here, so we should expect to see a little bit less of a run. Ooh, Mike Stevens has had a problem. That 63 car off the pace on the front straightaway, and some significant damage to the right front of that machine. And let's go back and try to find out what happened to the 63. Oh, he just lost it on the back straightaway and slid up into the fence and just jumped on the apron to stay out of everyone's way. But the 63 been hard into the wall. That might affect the toe on that race car, can make it unwieldy to drive, and he continues to lose spots here.
Yeah, one of the things we were seeing the other night is that if you're involved in much of any kind of an incident here, and it does any kind of major damage, you're done. I think these cars, we saw multiple cars, the front end gets knocked off, and the cars were just undrivable at that point.
I think we saw what could be the end of at least a competitive night for Sam Close, who's had such a good start to the season, but he's in the wall here early at Dover. Let's go back and find out what happened, but I think he had the same thing happen to him. He already had some right front damage from some wall contact, but gets up out of turn 2, hits that bump you talk about again, and then slams into the concrete on the inside wall, and that's going to be significant damage for the 5 of Sam Close, one of our championship runners. And that 5 car, the 3WideRacing Racing machine, going to be on pit lane for a while here early.
It is just so easy to just a touch too much throttle. If you're going diagonally across that bump, then it's going to want to kick that rear end sideways as well. It just makes everything worse. It's very hard to handle and still be quick.
Brandon Klusers in the 94 was all sorts of sideways on the back straight. I think we're going to see a lot more of what we saw just a minute ago with the 5, and we've seen that a couple times. Hanshaw almost lost it there as well. That bump out of turn 2 has just been claiming a bunch of drivers here early in the going. You mentioned it, Brian, so you must have seen this a lot on Saturday, but Sam Close is back out on the racetrack now, 2 laps down. Oh, I saw another car low on the back straightaway. Didn't see exactly who it was. It's Kyle Hanshaw again in that number 46 machine. And same exact situation, gets up off the corner. I wonder if this higher downforce package is kind of lending this to be more of an issue than it has been in the past, where you have so much downforce that anything that unsticks the car from the ground is going to make your car lose all that downforce instantly and spin those tires.
I think it's that, and I think maybe this higher downforce also gives the kind of false confidence through the corners, and then you go to exit the corner and that grip's not there, but your mind is programmed because you've just been through 2 corners with the grip. Your mind's programmed that it's going to be there, and it's not.
I think that could be a huge factor. Yeah, Brian, I think you're right about that. Robert Hill Jr. in the 61. He's out on track right now and in position number 17 at the moment. Caution out. Oh, we got a big wad. I think it's the 89 of Brent Miller. Huge damage to that 89 car early in the going. He's had a big lick. I think that's over that turn number 4. Yes, it is. So he's been in the wall hard. I see some damage to Frank Sims in the 75. Not sure if it had anything to do with it. But caution out. First one here on lap 40. Well, we got pretty significant way into this race without having a yellow, but the first one comes out. Let's see how it happens here. Go back a little ways, and I think what we're going to see... I lost him on my timing screen here. Oh, it's 89 Miller. Okay. And it looks like out of turn 2, I think what happens here is he hits that bump just like you mentioned. Oh, this is actually much further down the straightaway. Just hits the wall, goes down onto the apron, slides back up onto the track, slams the fence, and then Wade Lear could not get stopped and ended up turning him into the wall, so big damage for the 11 of Wade Lear as well. That was a weird one.
I think so. I ran a few laps here just to refamiliarize myself with it, especially with this new package. And I think sometimes the car will get just a hair loose over that bump. And so you do a little counter steer to catch it, and then if that's not quite enough, you can actually carry that tiny little bit of oversteer a pretty good ways down the track, before it really peeks its head out and says, "Yep, you're gonna have to do something about this."
Yeah,
And
so that happened right.
And then you've picked up some speed.
Yeah, that happened right in front of leader Chuck Sweeting. He managed to get through without any incident, but field on and off of pit lane. I think that was a good time for that. Getting close to the end of our first fuel run, Brian. And looks like Kyle Henshaw stayed out on the racetrack, but he's probably going to have to come in for fuel here shortly. And I imagine we'll see him down here. But Chuck Sweeting continues to lead this race. He's led all of the 40 laps we've completed so far. Looks like the strongest car out there so far, Brian. I'm a bit surprised Chad Frankenfield hasn't found a way around, but Matt Grunberg up into 5th. We noted he started at the rear of the field. He is flying forward.
Oh, absolutely. He's been making a charge for sure. But I think it's going to be hard for him to put any kind of fight to Sweeting and Frankenfield up here. They've been running a really fast, really good race.
And Chad Frankenfield, penalty applied to that number 15. Not sure what for, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably speeding. Either that or entering too many boxes. Actually, we might try to go back and find this one, so let me do that now. 15 penalized, he'll have to drop to the tail of the longest line for the restart. We're going to try to take you back and find what happened to put him back here. So here is a look at his pit stall. Nope, he looked fine there. So I'm going to assume that it was speeding probably into pit lane. So a big hit for Frankenfield, but he's been in this position before, but looks like it's been difficult to pass tonight, so probably not the position you want to put yourself in this early. There's also a lot of potential for restart collisions, so don't get yourself in trouble. Don't throw this away. You know who would love to see that caution, though, is Josh Adams. He's now only 1 lap down. He's going to take a wave around here. He's got 18 laps on this set of tires, but he's probably going to have to hope for a couple short yellows to get him back on sequence, but he's now only 1 lap down instead of 3.
Well, I'll tell you what we saw the other night is cautions breed cautions, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't have another caution or 2 or 3 here in quick succession.
Well, I think Josh Adams wants that. You just don't want to be a part of it. So Chuck Sweeting electing for the outside lane, Brian, after Saturday. Is this the way to go?
Oh, from what I saw, that the bottom lane is the quick lane on the restarts. It allows you to drive out there and get away, but it doesn't take long before that high line becomes faster.
This is where, in the past, I think the outside line probably would have been the place to be with the lower downforce package, get that launch and carry the momentum. But it seems like on the restarts, it seems like when you're not up to speed yet with the lower engine power, you want to be on the inside lane just to have that shorter way around because you're not up to speed yet. So interesting that Sweeting chose the outside, but we'll see if it pays off here at all. Maybe just to put Grunberg at a disadvantage because Grunberg's going to start on the inside of row 2. Pace car pulls off down into pit lane. So our first caution on lap number 40. Almost a quarter of the way through this race, but Sweeting takes off. Green flag back in the air at Dover. And watch out, you can't change lanes before that restart line. Looks like nobody did. If everyone behaves, Johnny Thomas jumping in that 83. He's going to jump in right behind Jadrsic, who gained a bunch of spots in that pit sequence. But Grunberg up into 3rd, right behind Tate Lytle. But Chuck Sweeting, he's off to the races and out of sight.
Yeah, I think the key tonight, especially if we see some green flag, is going to be tire management. You got to, it's the hard to do, but you've got to save your tires and run quick.
Oh, Nathan Velez in the fence out of turn 2. There's the damaged number 6, Levi Zielinski. He's been in the fence at least once tonight. And right behind Paul Ross, who started relatively deep in the field, but Ross starting to climb his way up. He's going to battle the 48 and the 6, those 2 Fords right in front of him. He's got the Chevrolet of Richard Lafferty right behind him, trying to find a way around. Ooh, a checkup out of turn 2.
Saw that. Looked like the 6 got just a tad bit loose.
And Race Clark in that 22, who was all sorts of sideways earlier in run number 1. Oh, the 6 car in the fence again out of turn 4, and somehow managed to not pack it in harder. He might be under attack from the 18 of Paul Ross, who's going to dive to the inside. But what I was just mentioning is that 22 of Race Clark All sorts of sideways in the first run. Found some grip. He's back inside the top 10, or top 11 at least. Kevin Jadrosich, that 42, started deep in the field. He's up inside the top 10 now, battling Rusty Webb in the 88, the other 3OG Racing car. Teammate Paul Ross just up the road in front of him. And behind, David Wilson in the 39 machine, trying to chase down Luis Salmaso, who's climbed up the grid, and Corey Lindsay in the Blurry Motorsports car. How about Jonathan Cogswell in the 27? He's had a very clean, tidy race this evening. Oh, McEvoy in the fence on the front straightaway, sliding all over the racetrack, trying to keep it straight into the fence. I think everyone's going to be able to keep going. He's going to lose a bunch of spots here. Great job, quick hands by the 21.
One of the things I noted the other night was a lot of really good heads-up racing, guys looking down the track and able to avoid a lot of issues. So I think we're probably seeing a lot of that tonight as well.
And also don't forget that these drivers in 3-wide, their season runs from basically March to November. These guys don't typically race outside of the 3-wide season. So when they came to Daytona here a few weeks back, and it was their first race in this package. So a lot of these guys were still getting used to it, but it looks like they've figured a lot of it out. Only a couple races in. Robert Hill Jr. under attack from Justin Kolb. Chops down on his front bumper through turns 1 and 2. Right behind, Salmaso gets around Lindsay and sets his sights on the top 15.
Well, a lot of really good, respectful racing. I'm not seeing a whole lot of pushing and shoving going on. This is great to watch.
Matt Grunberg in third after starting 23rd, up 20 spots in 50 laps. It's been a big climb. He's only got 2 spots left to get to Chuck Sweeting, and he's closing in on Lytle for that second spot as they work their way through turns 3 and 4. And a big battle going on 17th, 18th, 19th, Cogswell, Klusterhuis, and Wilson. And how about Frankenfield trying to recover after that mistake on pit lane, back up into 21st for now.
Definitely wouldn't surprise me to see Frankenfield move his way back up into the top 5 before the night's over.
He was quickest in practice and started second, so he's got a lot of pace in that number 15 Ford Fusion. Tanner Sharp and Nathan Velez, they're fighting for 4th. Out of turn 4, Paul Ross clips the wall behind him, but Sharp goes on the outside. He's going to manage to make that work in the 3 car up into 4th, but Velez fights back on the bottom. But for no dice, Sharp gets the spot. .54 laps in. I think it's about time for a SYM TV sound surge. We'll return with you in just a moment. Picking back up on lap number 58. Brian, that 26 car has been mighty strong, but that 54 car, he's been trapped in behind Tate Lytle. Do you think that 54 is the one to beat tonight? He's climbed up 21 spots. Do you think he can get 2 more?
I think he's absolutely got the car to do it. He has been a big mover by far. He just has to get around that 56 car, which he's trying to do. He's trying to get by.
Got a little loose out of turn 4.
Doesn't look like Tate Lytle's going to make it easy on him.
They're going around the stricken number 5 car, Sam Close, who had an incident early tonight. One DNF of the 32 cars that started. That was Brent Miller in the 89 machine, so he is out of the race. Sam Close 3 laps down. The only other car that is multiple laps down. And then we have 3 guys that are 1 lap down, Derbyshire, Sims, and Josh Adams in the 95.
And you know Adams is hating that because that means he's not the first one to get a lap back. So, you know, he's praying for some cautions here to hopefully get him back on the lead lap.
And we haven't really seen this race be a caution fest at all. We've only had 1 caution in 61 laps, which is quite a good record here, especially within the iRacing service. This track typically, like Richmond, is one that, well, might not have a lot of cautions in real life, that typically has a lot in the sim, but not the case tonight. So Josh Adams is in a tough spot at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And 122-degree track temperature right now. Absolute blistering track temp.
And it's only going to get hotter as the rubber gets laid down in the racing line, so that's going to get really greasy and force drivers to search for grip. We'll see how that affects as the night goes on, but you mentioned it, 122 degrees. Holy cow, that is toasty out there. And you know what else is toasty is this battle for second. Lytle getting all sorts of pressure from that 54.
Yeah, Lytle's really just got to stick to his line and run it and not be driving in his mirror. Although it looks like he overcooked the corner entry there, and he's going to let Matt Gruenberg get by him.
And Gruenberg up to second. Wade Lear down on pit lane with sufficient damage. I don't know what exactly happened. I'm going to try to go back. Oh, he did have an accident. So he blew his motor down in turn 1. He was involved in that incident with the 89 of Brent Miller. Couldn't do anything about it, but that car is going to be DNF. So Wade Lear, the number 11 Learjet Camaro, he's done for the night. And now a big battle. Look at this for 10th. There's Race Clark, Rusty Webb, Robert Hill Jr., Justin Kolb, all in this fight. And whoop, the 88 scrapes the fence, and Kolb scatters to the inside. And Salmaso is going to drive right around the inside of all of them. Also, for 6th place, Zielinski, Velez, Jadrsic, these 3 Fords all lined up in a row. And Jadrsic has come from the back of the field, and he doesn't have a scratch on that Ford Fusion just yet, so he's looking to climb up the order some.
So Zielinski was my broadcast partner for Saturday night, and he knew the winner of that race pretty well. So I'm going to guess that he got a few secrets from him, because he's doing not up much. He started 7th, sitting in 6th, but he may have something for some of these guys ahead.
As for 10th as Robert Hill Jr. gets by Race Clark. Clark answers with a crossover back to the inside lane for turn 3, but Robert Hill Jr. is going to slam the door shut. He'll take that spot away, but just looking at the top 5, it's Chevy, Ford, Toyota, Chevy, Toyota. Quite the diverse field we have here tonight. Lots of Fords, lots of Toyotas, lots of Chevys. So one of the most diverse fields you're going to find in simulated motorsport here within the iRacing service. Race Clark in the 22 getting all sorts of pressure from Justin Kolb. A big scatter up in front. Jadrsic off the pace with damage, gets clipped by the 61, and Jadrsic is going to spin off into turn 3. We stay green.
I believe he was going to be down into the fence on the inside.
And he'll stay out on the racetrack, but we just mentioned how he didn't have a scratch on that car, and that night has gone away very quickly for one of the field's fastest this evening. This started, oh, he got into it with Velez. Here's a look at it. Off into turn 1, he sticks the nose underneath. Velez kind of comes down and wasn't quite clear. And they make contact that slows everybody up, and then the 42 gets loose trying to get back up to speed. The 61 comes over to the left and clips the 42, and it's just a huge mess on the back straight. Wow. That was disorganized.
It just shows you how easy it is to get one of these cars loose. Even with this higher downforce, it's pretty, on this track, it is pretty easy to get this car loose for sure.
And especially with the hot temperatures, that's going to contribute here as well. There's Robert Hill Jr., who's just involved in that. He's got pressure from Luis Salmaso in the 4 3OG racing car right behind, and Johnny Thomas in the 83. He has not had a ton of pace tonight. Was really quick at Daytona. Excuse me, my throat's a little dry. I need to get myself a drink of water. At Daytona, he was really quick, but hasn't quite had the speed this season. Looking to have some better results in that 83. And Velez and Lafferty now fighting for 7th. Velez almost got turned, and for me, Brian, that's a racing incident there off in turn 2. The 48 definitely came down a little bit onto the nose, but one could argue that the 42 had no business putting his nose there. So either way you look at it, 2 cars in one space didn't work. But how about Frankenfield? He's back inside the top 10 after his climb from the back of the field on the restart.
That man knows how to work a car to the front of the field for sure. I was just looking at some of the big climbers. Paul Ross up 15 spots, started 20th up to 5th. Of course, Matt Gruenberg up in 2nd, started 23rd. Robert Hill Jr. started 27th up to 12th. So a lot of movement going forward here. Luis Salmaso started 25th up in 13th. A lot of these guys were able to work their way up the field here.
Robert Hill Jr. won the Truck Series race at Watkins Glen a few weeks ago and has had a lot of talent so far early in his career here in 3-wide and battling inside the top 15. You mentioned his climb forward. Kind of hoping we can get a yellow so I can get a drink of water. My throat is really not doing so good here. Excuse me. Let's see, what else is going on? Now, Nick Miller on the 9, we haven't mentioned him yet tonight. He's got Richard Hines all over his bumper. They're all the way down in 21st. Carlos Acosta in that 24. Not been his night this season as well. He's had some good runs and some not so good runs, and this is going to fall squarely in the not so good category so far this evening.
Well, maybe. We're not even halfway through this race yet, so we'll have to wait and see. In fact, he just picked up a spot there, so he's making some progress forward. Not much, but we'll see how it goes for him.
You're right, still a long way to go, but you know what else? Is the battle for the lead is on between those top 2. It's Chuck Sweeting and Matt Gruenberg. The battle is only separated by 0.2 of a second. And Tate Lytle is a ways back. That 54 car is coming and coming quickly. We knew this 54 would be probably one of the best cars this season. Had a bit of a slow start, some bad luck early in the going, but he has found pace in the recent weeks, and he is coming to the front. Here comes the 54 Gruenberg. The back of the bumper almost halfway through this race. It's ticking by pretty quick here.
Just looking through the field at some of the other names that I know. David Wilson, he races in the SYM Possible League. Really solid racer. You can pretty much depend on him to race pretty clean. There are a few other guys that you can't really depend on that, but David Wilson's one of them.
To watch this battle, I'm just kind of curious to see how Gruenberg attacks the rear bumper of Sweeting. Sweeting's been the quickest car all night, but Gruenberg has a little bit of a different line. It's not different by much, but this racetrack is one of the ones I would call very line sensitive. If you're not in exactly the right place at exactly the right time, it bungs up your whole lap. There's 95 of Josh Adams. He's going to go another lap down, back to 2 down. And opens up an opportunity for Gruenberg to try to slot in there, but couldn't quite do it that time.
Yeah, using this traffic as a pick is could really be his key to being able to get around Sweeting here.
E-Boy in the 21 hasn't had a fantastic night. He's got some significant damage on the right front of that Ford Fusion, but the leaders go on through. They continue to fight. Gruenberg trying to wait for an opportunity. Ooh, he scrapes the wall out of turn 2, but it shouldn't hurt him here.
The other thing, too, I don't think Gruenberg's going to be able to get a pass on Sweeting as long as Sweeting keeps that one line up. Because, like I said, that one line up, that is the fast way around. And you can literally drive by somebody on that upper line.
And you see them kind of flirting. The 26 took the lower groove that time through, and Matt went up a lane to try to find some speed, but right now, it looks like Gruenberg is pretty much using the exact same line as the 26, at least for most of the corners. And you're never going to get by somebody with this downforce package just following them through the corner. But there you see that inside line open up. But you mentioned it, how difficult is it going to be for that 54 to complete a pass? He's going to have to throw it in there and shove the 26 up the track, or hope the 26 makes a mistake, because you're sure as heck ain't going to get it by him on the inside lane this late on a run.
No, absolutely not. You're not going to be able to make the car stick down there with any kind of speed. Looked like the 54 got a little bit loose there coming out of the corner.
Yeah.
The other thing that we mentioned it earlier, is this aero bubble. Gruenberg's going to be fighting that big time, getting that car turned in and rotated through the corners as he pulls up on Sweeting's bumper.
Yeah, I think the 54 is overdriving just a little bit. The last few times he's been all sorts of sideways out of turns 2 and 4, so something not quite right for him. I think he's struggling with the handling of that machine. Really loose at the moment. There's Josh Adams trying to get one of his laps back. He came to pit road a moment ago to get fresh tires and fuel in that car. And getting closer to the end of this run as well. We've been going for 45 laps, so we're getting to the point where we're going to start thinking about pit stops. I think Gruenberg wants to get this pass done before that stop happens.
Looks like the 63 car there that just went by might have gotten into the wall in the exit of the corner there.
There's Kyle Hanshaw, who goes a lap down here early. Actually, it's only going to be one lap for now. He's got an opportunity to get it back, but 46 has been having a rough couple weeks here. Tanner Sharp, he's down on pit lane. Scheduled stop, I would presume, for the 3. Maybe just trying to get his stop done and get back on the track, making time before the inevitable next caution comes out. I don't see us going green all the way to the end. That might be a bit silly to think, but we've had long green flag runs tonight, closing on a halfway point of this race, and a great battle for the lead brewing here in a moment.
Yeah, I'm just thinking we're coming up on these green flag stops, so Gruenberg maybe just using up every bit of tire he's got to try and make something happen against Sweeting here. So that, I think you mentioned him overdriving the car. As long as it doesn't come back to bite him on one of these corner exits, use up those tires.
And he's going to have an opportunity here to get to the outside of the 26. And couldn't quite do it, though, so he's going to have to get back in line behind the 26. Now, Sweeting loose out of turn 2, as is the 54 Gruenberg. But they're both leaving Tate Lytle in the dust. 3/10 quicker for those leaders last time through. They are the only ones in this zip code tonight on pace.
And it really makes you wonder, how is it that you find some of these guys that are able to make these, their tires have to be just complete junk by now, but they're still making really, really solid lap times with them when conceivably nobody else on the track can.
Other cars making their way down to pit lane. I think Johnny Thomas has been there. I think we just saw Rusty Webb in the 88 3WideRacing car pull off, but now another lap car. This gives the 54 an opportunity to pin that 26 behind him and trying to set him up, but just no clear way around. There's a 5% close on the high side. And Sweeting actually gaps the 54 by about 2 car lengths. We got one pulling off onto the apron behind. Didn't quite get a good look at who it was, but Giadricic being a difficult lap car. It's going to hold up the 26. Gruenberg's going to have a big run on the back straightaway. What does he do with it? Where does he go with it? For now, he sits in behind.
There was nowhere to go with that. If he had dropped down to the bottom, he would have been way too low to have any kind of speed through the corner. That would have been a full send for sure.
A lot more cars on pit lane, in and out. There's Chad Frankenfield, Paul Ross. They've completed their stops in pit sequence, but the leaders still have yet to make theirs. They've got time to kill, though. They continue to lap almost 3 to 4/10 of a second faster than anybody else out on the racetrack. They're not really losing. I mean, they'll lose a lot of time to the cars on fresh tires, but they can afford to stay out longer. Gruenberg really slipped and slid through turns 3 and 4, lost about 3/10 of a second, left to gain it all back. Caution!
And there it is. You see it. Green flag stops. You see it all too often.
Who that was? Oh, I see him now. On the front straightaway, who that was? It's the 3 car, Tanner Sharp.
Tanner Sharp.
One of the Blurry Motorsports cars who pit. He was one of the first guys to pit in this sequence, and that car is destroyed. So he is going to struggle here at Dover. Let's go back and find out what happened to the 3. So let's see here. Oh, this was a multi-car incident between him and the 91 of Derbyshire. And I think Darvashar, oh yeah, Darvashar pushes up, hits the wall, and the 3, just an innocent victim, collected and slammed into the inside barrier. Wow. Big hit there for those 2 cars. All right, we're going to let this pit stop. So this is going to shake up the running order quite a bit, but I need to get a drink, and I need to restart the ticker software here. So bear with me for a couple minutes. We'll be right back for the restart. Welcome back live to SYM TV, RaceKings Cup Series action from Dover Speedway, and Matt Grunberg is out up front right now after winning the race off pit road over Chuck Sweeting. Well, this shook up the running order quite a bit, Brian, and also I have to address the elephant in the room, the ticker. 19 minutes remaining. That is not correct. We are 98 laps into a 200-lap race. I just had to restart the software, so it's going to take it a couple laps to get reconfigured. But Chuck Sweeting, Levi Zielinski sitting in 4th alongside Tate Lytle, who'll restart 3rd. Race Clark is up in 5th. Corey Lindsay in 6th. So a lot of wave arounds, a lot of cars still trapped a lap down with this whole sequence here. So that's going to shake up the running order quite a bit. And we only have 2 DNFs at the moment. So there's still a lot of cars running, and a lot of cars a lap down after getting a caution mid-sequence there.
I think all the lap down cars are it's gonna fix itself once we cross the line here, because a lot of cars got the wave around.
That could be my timing screen also off a little bit as well. So green flag back in the air here at Dover. Grunberg takes off. He's been quick so far. Can he hang on and hold off the 26 of Chuck Sweeting, who's led every single lap up to this point? Looks like a great restart for him. Everyone behind. Whoa, big scatter on the front straightaway. Hanshaw all off the pace. Not sure what's up there. Looks like the 42 of Giadaricic getting around a couple lap cars towards the rear. But up in front, nobody's going to touch Matt Grunberg on the restart.
That man just set sail on everybody.
We know he's quick, but he's just been so solid these last couple weeks, and he's got a lot of pace in anything that he drives. Oh, a 3 wide down into turn number 1. Paul Ross gets the 15 of Frankenfield and the 83 of Johnny Thomas. They get it sorted out. Ross gets the best advantage. He'll drive off and take away 18th place. Up for 4th, though. Make it 3rd. Lets Levi Zielinski, Tate Lytle. Brace Clark and David Wilson fighting for 6th behind. Richard Hines has found himself inside the top 10, as has Robert Hill Jr. Halfway at the line there, lap 101 of 200. And the speeds, you can tell, there's visually so much higher on these fresh tires.
Absolutely, they are. These fresh tires, these guys are able to really rocket these cars out of the corners, especially. So much more grip coming out of the corners than not having to feather the throttle nearly as much.
Brace Clark has just been a wild man behind the wheel. He's been running way up the racetrack, all sorts of sideways on the straightaways. He's been a fun one to watch. Richard Lafferty, he started tonight's race in 12th. Well, he's running exactly 12th right now. There's Mike Stevens just up the road. I think he's a lap down in that 63. No, he's not. Mike, actually, yes, he is. 1 lap down in that 16 car, or 63, excuse me, in 16. And the 21 of McKeevoy up here, he's also one of those lap down machines.
Yeah, and speaking of lap down, I was definitely incorrect about that. There was a lot of those lap down cars that I thought were going to get their laps back, but definitely not. So they got caught by that caution right in the middle of their green flag stops.
Yeah, it depends on how they catch it and where they catch it, whether or not they'll get a lap back. Looks like a lot of those guys didn't. David Wilson trying to hold off Corey Lindsay, Robert Hill Jr. for 6th. He's going to do that, but Richard Hines in that bright yellow and blue number 2 car on the inside of the 00. And he'll clear Corey Lindsay for 8th. And then right on the inside now, Nick Miller trying to take advantage of it. He dives to the inside lane. But up front, well, let's go back up there for a moment. Grunberg has an 0.8 of a second lead, but Chuck Sweeting is trying to keep that lead modest. But no one else seems to have the pace of those top 2 cars.
Yeah, Grunberg's it's like a bullet out of a gun thus far. He's really just, and it makes you wonder how long can he keep that up before his tires are just going to completely fall off.
Well, he won the race last night at Eldora. This is about the farthest thing you can get from Eldora, but he's making good use of his time up front. Justin Cole dives to the inside of Klusterhuis. Klusterhuis is a lap down. He's actually the car in the free pass position if another caution were to come out. Frantic action here at about halfway in this race. I think drivers are beginning to realize we only have about 36 minutes of racing left. It's not a whole lot of time around here at Dover. Ooh, the 18 almost got in the back of McKeevoy. And looks like Ross wants to go someplace. These cars are battling for position, albeit 1 lap down. And there he goes to the inside on the front straightaway. He'll take this spot away. On fresh tires, the inside lane, the place to be. You see Stevens and Frankenfield up the road. But as the run goes on, the outside lane gets more and more tempting to run up there. And it looks like Stevens probably won't be able to hang on. He's going to go way up the racetrack, and Frankenfield's going to take that spot for 15th. And Jandricic, he's the last car on the lead lap in 13th place at the moment.
Yeah, he's putting a pretty good fight on the number 8 of Lafferty there.
Also up in front. Well, a couple laps ago I said Chuck Sweeting was keeping pace. Not anymore. Grunberg is just checked out in that 54 machine. Started all the way back in 23rd position. He leads this race 110 laps in. 90 to go at the line, and I don't think anyone's got anything for him at this stage of the race.
It's hard to think anybody out there could be running as fast as he is, but you know, you just never know. He could be absolutely wasting his tires right now, pulling this lead. It really has to make you wonder: is he, being a fool by using his tires up so early, or does he think he can sustain this kind of pace?
We'll see, but the track temp continues to rise. It's 118 degrees now. That's only about 9 or 10 degrees short of the record here on SYM TV. So it's really hot out there. It will get hotter as the track gets more rubber, but there's a really intense battle going on for 14th on the racetrack between the 94 Klusterhuis and the 15 of Frankenfield. And these guys have traded positions a couple times. Ooh, the 94 tried to cross him over, hit the apron on exit. That brings the 63 of Stevens right up to his rear bumper. This race has been extremely competitive, though. I will say that it seems that this racetrack has been one of the ones to really benefit in iRacing from this package. Maybe not necessarily in the real world, but it seems like this has made the racing a lot more competitive than I'm used to seeing at Dover.
Absolutely. I have to agree completely. This is really, really fantastic racing we see tonight. It's what I saw Saturday night as well. Really, really good racing, hard racing, but relatively clean. So hats off to these guys and the outsider guys.
We've only had a handful of incidents so far, and getting down to the final stages of this race, the final half hour. And I think we've gotten past the hardest part for drivers, which is typically the beginning of the race when you don't know what's going on, you don't know the pace of the other drivers around you, you don't know what the track conditions are like, but these guys have figured it out. And with 85 to go, Grunberg leads by 1.3 seconds over Polstead Chuck Sweeting. Then it's Tate Lytle, Zielinski, and Race Clark. How about a top 5 run for him, although he's being challenged by David Wilson in that 39. This is a good run for the 39 as well. It's had a kind of an abysmal start to the season after winning the Talladega Clash preseason, and now finds himself
he's sitting third in the championship. So
not
a terrible start.
I might be thinking of the trucks.
Okay.
But so far in P6 and dropping in behind Race Clark. But Race Clark, he's been running that way up groove, and I have not seen that really pay off massively for the 22 in terms of passing, but it's a great defensive move because no one can get underneath them to complete a pass on the exit of the corner.
Right. The other thing it does, I think, it may help you get the power down earlier coming out of the corner because you get that car straightened out a little bit earlier, so you can when you hit that bump that'll tend to get you sideways, if you've got the car straightened out, you're going to be less likely to turn the car.
Tate Lytle has been stuck third most of the night, started there and is running there. It seems like that's really where Tate Lytle's been a lot of the season. He's had the pace to win these things, but hasn't found himself in victory lane more than one time this season. So he's had a good start to the season, but I think he would like to be about 1 or 2 spots better. And I think that's true even tonight.
Yeah, but there's something to be said for consistency, and many a championship and many a racing series has been won with just a consistent top 5, top 3, top 2 performance every week. So definitely can't count him out.
Well, apparently I have no idea what I'm talking about because I just checked the Truck and the Cup Series standings, and Wilson's second in Truck standings and second in the Cup Series standings as well. So I don't know. I just don't know who I'm talking about, I guess. Wrong car, apparently. He's had a spectacular start to both seasons so far, so good on Wilson. He continues to run in 6th and still looking for 5th on Race Clark.
It's still a little bit of jet lag. You spent too much time in the car this weekend.
Yeah, I'm still... You know what the crazy thing is, Brian, is that Michigan is still Eastern time, even though we're 9 hours away.
That's right, because I got a buddy up on iRacing that's in Detroit, and he says it's still Eastern. I'm like, wait a second, that's just wrong.
It is wrong, and also, like, sunset was, like, basically at 10 o'clock. Like, it didn't get dark until 10, and it's not even, like, the summer solstice yet, so I don't know what was up, but it should be a central time zone, I think, at least on the west side of Michigan where I was. But either way, I don't know what I'm talking about. So now that we've got that out of the way, I apologize to David for that. Battle for second heating up here. Sweeting and Lytle getting into it now.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing Lytle put some pressure on Sweeting and see if Sweeting can hold him off there.
And then Levi Zielinski just kind of hanging around in 4th place. That's been a really strong run for the 6th car tonight.
I told you. I think he's got some insider secrets there, because it was Josh. Now I'm gonna struggle.
Josh Adams?
No, in Outsider.
Josh. I don't think we don't have a Josh. Oh no, Joshua Banks.
Yes, Josh Banks. He absolutely dominated that race. And so I think Zielinski may have gotten some insider secrets about that race and how to run this track. So
okay, well, I checked the point standings before I made this comment, so I know I'm right about this. But now Zielinski has had a pretty rough start to the season. He's all the way down in 23rd, and we know he's got the capability to win a championship. He's been awful good, even last year in the trucks, but so far this year has not really found the pace. But right now, actually, I don't even want to say that. It's not that he hasn't had the pace. It's that he's been involved in a lot of wrecks and collisions, not even of his own doing. But tonight, a turnaround for that number 6 running in 4th at the moment. 75 laps to go. And Robert Hill Jr. starting to creep into the mix for 6th as well. This has been a phenomenal night for the 61. Started 27th. He's up to 7th, up 20 spots. One of our biggest movers on the evening.
Just looking, Richard Hines in the 2 car. Started 28th, up to 11th.
Wow.
Big mover there.
A lot
Nick
of these
Miller
guys.
in the 9 started 32nd, up to 9th. Top 10 started. Is that dead? That's dead last. Started dead last and up in the top 10. That's phenomenal driving there.
And a lot of these guys had a little bit of help with that caution about 25, 30 laps ago, but they've kept themselves in the race. And, that 15 of Frankenfield's all out of shape out of turn 2, but he's going to recollect himself. And he's stuck here, and he's in 14th right now in the free pass position, but he's stuck here until the caution comes out. There's no way he's getting that lap back without help from a yellow. Ooh, man, and he almost got hit by the 8 of Richard Lafferty, and he's going to pull out in front and drive away. That was really close and very scary there, but Frankenfield will pull away now, and he's got a lot of work left to do tonight. Up front, Chuck Sweeting. You mentioned that maybe the 54 is burning off his stuff, and maybe so. His lead is kind of stagnated at 1.1 seconds. I'm curious to see if that 26 will start to reel him back in here late in the run.
Yeah. I mean, if I were Sweeting and Lytle, I would not be pushing too hard to try and catch Gruenberg, because Gruenberg almost has to be burning up his tires running that kind of pace. So Sweeting and Lytle, I think they could really benefit by dialing it back just a little bit, saving some tire, and having something left to fight with. Because if we stay green flag, you've got 50 laps or so on a green flag run, which who knows, we may get here.
Well, I know one thing is that Sweeting has actually reeled in that 54 quite a bit. It's now 9/10 of a second. It was 1.3 a little while ago, so that 26 car is on the move and hunting down that 54. So I think you're right. Those right side tires on the 54 are probably screaming for release. They're probably wicked hot inside that machine. Take a look at the track conditions out there. 116 degrees, so still molten hot out there. And the right side tire is paying for it, but Sweeting held up there a bit by a lap car. We'll have to wait a couple more laps to see the true performance left in that 26 machine.
Yeah, and I see how Sweeting is pulling away from Lytle as well. He's definitely put a gap on him.
David Wilson takes away 5th place from Race Clark in an aggressive move in turn 4. Gets the spot, and it's going to try to gap that yellow and black number 22.
Could be that Race Clark, he's been running that, let's call it an unconventional line. So could be that his tires aren't liking him much either.
Could be the case for sure. About 65 to go here. Closing in. Again, we mentioned it. We're under a half an hour left in this race. Getting down to it. We've had 2 yellows so far. That's slowed the progress of this one. But Nick Miller, Richard Hines battling for 10th. You mentioned Richard Hines clawing from the back. And Nick Miller clawing from the very back in 32nd. But here comes Chad Frankenfield from behind him. This is not going to be for position, but Frankenfield is one of the quickest cars out here on the racetrack at the moment. He's just stuck a lap down. If you think back to his pit road speeding penalty, that might have put him back here in the first place, because he was so far back that he changed his strategy and pitted earlier in the run on the most recent run and then got trapped with that yellow flag. So he's really put himself in a bad spot here and didn't have any better luck when that caution came out.
Yeah, he's definitely got a hole to dig himself out of, but just one caution and he'll be right back in this thing. I think he'll be able to really move forward.
It's still a little ways until Gruenberg will get up and lap anybody else. About 6 or 7 seconds till they catch Giadaricic in the 42, and he's no slouch out there either. He's running some really good lap times as well as the leaders, although Sweeting has fallen back off that pace. That charge he mounted on the 54 has fallen off, and he's dropped back to 1.4 behind the leader. Kind of an interesting
You know, that could have been a combination. It could have been a couple of slightly slower laps from Gruenberg, a couple slightly faster laps from Sweeting, and all of a sudden it looks like Sweeting's really reeling him in, and then, you know, a couple of faster laps from Gruenberg, slightly slower from Sweeting, and then it opens back up. So.
And sometimes drivers are their own worst enemy. When they see that perception that they're chasing somebody down, they'll drive a little bit harder to get even closer, and they end up burning their own stuff trying to catch the leader. So sometimes you got to go slow to go fast.
Just that much too hard. Overcook a corner entry, get on the throttle too early, have to back out of it. So easy to do.
And right there's Luis Salmaso, who's also trapped a lap down, but he's actually coming up. He might have something to challenge the 15 car for this free pass position here in a moment. And we've seen all the caution flags happen at or near the pit stop sequences, because that's when the handling is at their worst. But this is the most spread out we've seen the field this whole race, so I don't know if we'll get one this time through. And everyone's got to pit at least once more here.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point they're going to need to pit probably at least 2 more times, I think.
We can go... We've gone 45 laps on fuel. If we can go about 60 laps, which I think we should be able to, then we probably can go only 1 more stop. So we have 60 to go at the line there. If they can go another 5 or 6 laps, I'd say I'm pretty confident that we could make it to the end. Maybe be a bit close, but we should be good on 1 more. If we see anybody coming to pit road early, the next 3 or 4 laps, then I'd be a bit concerned. 5 to 10, I think we're all right. Race Clark has not dropped out of the picture for the top 5 battle, Brian. He's still sitting solidly in 6th, and this has been an exceptional run for this 22 team. And
I see he's sitting there stuck right to David Wilson as well.
So his season so far, he's 35th in the point standings. I don't think he started every race starts. Let's see, 35th. Oh, he's only started 2 races leading up to this, so that's why he's buried in the points. But of those 2 starts, no top 5s and no top 10s. So this would be the first top 10 for him this season. He's only 1 spot away from getting himself inside the top 5.
Yeah, it could be a big night for him. Absolutely. A lot of times all it takes is one good race to kind of knock you out of a funk and wake you up and help you realize that you can run up there with these guys.
All right, pit stops underway. Johnny Thomas, Kyle Hanshaw down in pit lane. Both these cars were laps down. I would take it if they've pitted now and we've still got cars on the racetrack. I think they know that they can go 55 laps to the end, and it looks like Johnny Thomas might have hit the wall. He missed his box there, and so did Hanshaw. Oh, this is disastrous for the 83. He finally got it lined up, but it's going to be a really slow stop for the 83 Johnny Thomas.
Really long pit lane delta here, too. 35 miles an hour is the pit lane speed, so just creeping along. 35 is just a snail's pace in these cars.
And Johnny Thomas was 10th in the points leading into tonight, gained 4 spots after Bristol. Going to be a pretty sharp drop down the running here as we've got a pretty tight points battle. Only about 10 points separating him and 14th place Chuck Sweeting, who is currently running in 4th as he comes down the pit lane. And that's our leader with 53 to go. And I think that means we can go to the end on here from fuel. So the 26 is Sweeting, who was from the lead earlier in the night, get back to 2nd when Gruenberg took over. Sweeting on the final run of the evening, coming for tires and fuel.
So it looks like he's going for that undercut.
So the question is, how long does Gruenberg stay out?
Does Gruenberg stay out? Yes. Tires are key. The longer he can stay out now and keep going, keep staying in the lead. He's going to have fresher tires for the finish.
And, you know, I'd say now that I'm feeling pretty good. Chuck Sweeting disappeared off the timing and scoring screen. Not sure if he's had internet issues take him out of races before.
Yes.
And that could be it. This is so frustrating. It happens to Joshua Banks all the time on the outsider side of things. Brian, he probably should have won about 5 more races than he has on SYM TV, but has had internet issues take him out, and Sweeting drops down the order. That might have been an internet drop for the 26. And that
what
just
a tough
sucks.
break. Running so solid all night long, and be taken out by things completely outside of your control.
Oh, well, that just sucks. I mean, he was lining himself up to have a battle for the lead in Grunberg. I think he saw that happen, and he's going to be down to pit lane. He was really only fighting the 26 car, so he's pretty much sitting pretty now. The only thing that can trap him is if a caution comes out mid-sequence like we saw, so Tate Lytle's going to stay out on older tires and maybe just try to run it till it's out of fuel in hopes that it'll get a caution. A lot of other cars on pit lane. Race Clark, David Wilson, Luis Almaso, Frank Sims, Rusty Webb, Kevin Jadrosich, Paul Ross, Mike Stevens. A lot of the field on pit lane this time. Richard Lafferty leaving his box. Justin Cogswell. But for Chuck Sweeting, I don't even know if he'd bothered coming back at this point. I mean...
yeah, I mean, he can't... he could move up a few spots from last, but...
That's really a shame. So he's going to come on in.
It is.
And Tate Lytle comes in for his stop, as well as Levi Zielinski and Corey Lindsay. He's going to make his way down to pit lane. So that brings our DNF list up quite a bit. Sweeting, Frank Sims... actually, Frank Sims is still out on the racetrack, but Kyle Hanshaw, Sam Close, Tanner Sharp, Austin Darbyshire, Wade Lear, Brent Miller. So we haven't had a lot of incidents tonight, but the incidents that we have had have taken cars out completely. Again, Dover and Miles the Monster really chomping down tonight.
Well, that's exactly this track. It's so narrow, it's so fast, and you got nothing but wall. So much of any kind of mistake, and you're hitting hard.
Justin Kolb in from the lead. He managed to lead a lap or two before coming on down, but Matt Grunberg, the leader of this race, and he has been in commanding control ever since he got the lead away from Chuck Sweeting. And it looks like Luis Salmaso has also taken that car and retired it. So drivers kind of falling like flies here in the late going, less than 50 to go, and Grunberg has got no competition. The only car even close is Tate Lytle, who is a long ways back. This has just been a phenomenal run for the 54 Grunberg. Entered the Truck Series late last year and won a handful of races at all sorts of different racetracks. And we knew when he came to Cup this year, he'd be a force to reckon with. And with 45 to go, that case has never been truer in the Cup Series here for the 3WideRacing lead.
Yeah, absolutely dominant performance. I mean, he started all the way back in 23rd and drove his way up to first. He didn't he didn't use any trickery to get up there. He drove that car and got himself into first and easily holding it.
And he's got a 10. Oh, I see Tate Lytle. He's back down pit lane. Is this serving a penalty potentially for the 56? Coming back in again. I almost managed to mute my mic on OBS before I sneezed, but almost. Not quite. So Tate Lytle back in again. This is disastrous for the 56, serving a penalty. Huge disaster for the 56 of Lytle, who is running second.
But you see who that moves up into second now. Levi Zielinski. Told you.
There's your man. He's 10.9 seconds back from the leader, though. He's got a lot of work to do. But man,
he's got a lot of work to do. But a solid run. I mean, he qualified 7th, so not too shabby. But sitting in second right now, it's a great day for him for sure. And David Wilson started 16th and was running 3rd.
Yeah, how about David Wilson and Race Clark solidly inside the top 5, as well as Robert Hill Jr., who just joined the Cup Series a few weeks ago. Both these cars, remember, Race Clark only started a couple races. Robert Hill Jr., he's only a couple races into his season. Both these cars shooting for a top 5, but here comes Lafferty to kind of stink up the party. And that number 8 car, he's had kind of a hit-or-miss season so far. And sitting in 6th right now and closing in on 5th.
Still looking at some of these big movers. Not a whole lot has moved very much, but Rebel Hill Jr. started 27th up to 5th, back to 10th place. You got Nick Miller. He started 32nd, dead last, up, still holding that solid top 10. And then just behind him, Richard Hines started 28th, and he's sitting in 11th. So big movers up there. And then we see, Chuck Sweeting. I'm just watching him on the timing, 12 laps down now. That's what a heartbreaker for him.
Yeah, that's gotta really suck, and I feel for him. And this happens to a lot of drivers in all the leagues that we do, but it hurts so bad when you're that competitive. And it's happened to Joshua Banks, it's happened to Chuck Sweeting, and it's almost been the subject of jokes between Chuck Sweeting and us, but no joke tonight. No one's really laughing at that situation. I have to say, though, that Richard Hines, I know you don't have the paint package downloaded necessarily, Brian, but because we don't use trading paints for this league, but Richard Hines has a bright yellow paint scheme with a bright blue number 2 on it, and there's no funny business. It's just a yellow car with a blue number, and it's so simple, and for some reason the simple paint schemes on those Ford Fusions look really, really good.
I can't disagree. Despite not liking the drivers, the Team Penske cars in Cup, they're good-looking cars.
I agree. I'm not exactly, I've been partial to Brad. Like, I used to really hate him, but I don't mind him now. He can still get on my nerves, but Joey, I don't have any space in my heart for him. Great guy. No. Great guy. Love the guy. But in terms of on the racetrack, it hurts for me to see him win. But either way, their cars do look really good. I also love their whole colored rims thing that they got going on. And Richard Hines
exactly
got the brushed metal rims this week.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that about a lot of people when it comes to racing is that, I may secretly dislike them on the racetrack, but when it comes to the person, I'd sit down and have dinner with anybody in the NASCAR Cup Series.
Right. Sure. Exactly.
Oh, big battle going on right now. Giadersich, Race Clark, Corey Lindsey, and you can throw in Carlos Acosta even though he's a couple laps down. Paul Ross in here as well. Cars all over the racetrack. This is through turns 1 and 2. Race Clark falling off the pace. Not quite sure what's going on with that machine, but my guess is that I was gonna look at his lap since pit, but he's actually pitted more recently than a lot of these cars.
Corey Lindsey's just driving right by him and the 24.
So something not right with that 22 machine, but going backwards quickly. Levi Zielinski has eaten into Matt Gruenberg's lead, but that gap is still 9.5 seconds. It's just looking like a curb stomp day for that 54, and there he is just out of frame, coming into frame now. That bright yellow Jegs Ford Fusion closing in to put more of these cars a lap down. He's lapped up to 9th, and he's not done yet.
I think Gruenberg, I think one of the things that's slowing him down a little bit here is he's got these lap cars he's getting through, but beyond that, he's got his relative. He's watching that gap behind. He knows he doesn't have to push. He doesn't have to open this gap up. He's got a nice, comfortable gap. Just take your time, work through this traffic, plan your moves, and just kind of keep that gap where it is. Maybe let Zielinski eat into it a little bit, but I think Gruenberg's doing a really solid job of managing that gap and not pushing too hard, not overworking his tires. He still has, we still have just over 30 laps to go, so.
And just don't do anything that'll put yourself in a bad spot. Don't do anything that'll get you out of this race, because he has dominated this one in the late stages. And unfortunately for Chuck Sweeting, who led the majority of the first half of this thing, he's not going to be able to finish tonight. 23 laps down and growing. 26th place is where he will finish this evening. A real shame for Chuck Sweeting. 30 laps to go this time through. Zielinski, again, still closing, but at this point, like you mentioned, Matt Gruenberg just out here really just trying to keep the nose on the car and get it to the end of the race. Just completely curb stomping the field, but that's not to say there aren't battles elsewhere on the racetrack. Tate Lytle, who had the penalty, battling with Jordan McEvoy, and whoop, crosses over, goes defensive into turn 1. That battle for 16th has fizzled out. Let's jump back to 4th. Robert Hill Jr. and Richard Lafferty. Lafferty's having a great run.
He sure is. Started 12th up to 5th. He's definitely moved forward a good bit. Giadrasic started 24th, sitting in 6th spot right now. Really good run for him.
Yeah, Hill and Lafferty got really close through turns 1 and 2, almost hooked each other, but I see another car coming into the shot. It's the bright orange and green, number 42 of Giadrasic. He's all over these guys. This is all for position. And Corey Lindsay at the back of the shot there, the top right of your screen, he is coming as well. So this battle for 4th heating up quickly with about 25 laps to go. The 8 cars slow through 1 and 2. Here comes Giadrasic to fight for inside the top 5 after having a long night getting himself into this position.
Yeah, he was a lap down there for a good while.
Lafferty on the outside bounces off the fence in turn 4. Giadrasic takes the spot away and sets his sights on 4th now.
Looking at the gap that Zielinski still has over Wilson. Wilson's just not really able to do a whole lot with Zielinski. Zielinski's eaten into Gruenberg a little bit. Again, I think traffic's playing into that, but Gruenberg's just playing the smart race. You got to pick your battles working through this lap traffic. You can't get impatient. You have to make it happen when it's going to happen cleanly, and everybody, all parties concerned, agree that it's going to happen cleanly.
25 laps to go this time through for Matt Gruenberg. And you mentioned his lead, still 8.7 seconds, but Robert Hill Jr. under attack from Giadrasic. He forces his way to the inside. Contact between the two, and the 42 tried to force the 61 up the racetrack, but the 61 didn't budge. Robert Hill Jr. holding his ground, and Giadrasic is going to have to try that one again.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at just over 25 laps to go here. We're, you know, it's just about go time. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot more aggressive moves here. We haven't seen much aggression tonight so far, which has been fantastic. It's allowed for a lot of this green flag racing. But I think we're about to see everybody turn it up to 11.
Yeah, 23 laps to go at the line this time through, and that might sound like a reasonably large number, but that's only 9 minutes of racing, and you look at the back of that shot, there is Matt Gruenberg coming to put these guys a lap down. If we were to get a late race caution, if you're not the free pass car, you're going to have a hard time making any passes, but just ahead of the leader is where that battle for 4th is, and it is hot right now, and Corey Lindsay has fallen victim. Justin Kolb in the 52 is the next one on the chopping block for that leader to get to him. And Lafferty's closed right back up to Giadrasic and Hill. That leaves only 7 cars on the lead lap now. This has been an absolutely dominant night for the 54. Long green flag runs, a caution to kind of split everyone down the middle and put a bunch of cars a lap down to help out Matt Gruenberg.
Yeah, but it seems to be helping Zielinski just a tad bit more. He's still closing in. I don't know that he's got enough time to really do anything with it, but he is eating into Gruenberg here, so who knows? Gruenberg catches some bad patches of traffic that really slows him down, and Zielinski gets some open air. Maybe able to close this thing up.
Still, I mean, 20 laps, you lose about a half a second a lap, there's still time for Gruenberg to lose this lead, and you see there's that intense battle for 4th that these guys are not going to give up right in front of the leader, so that could slow him down. 20 laps to go at the line. There's the 24 of Carlos Acosta, who's not had the greatest of nights, and he's the next one to go down another lap. He's 4 down, about to go 5, and then there's Richard Lafferty, who's not going to give up his spot because he's battling Giadrasic and Hill right in front of him.
Yeah, see, and this is a very, very good point here, is Gruenberg has to realize these guys are fiercely battling for position, and so he really can't force an issue through here, I wouldn't think. I wouldn't think that'd be the gentlemanly thing to do.
Well, he might not have to force his way in. He's just going to dive underneath and take the spot.
See that.
He made that quick and easy. Ooh, Acosta slips up and gets the 8 car. Then he'll let Justin Kolb on through for 6th. Now Robert Hill Jr. and Giadrasic. Ooh, Giadrasic really slow through 3 and 4, and Gruenberg is there to put the 42 a lap down.
Wow, Gruenberg can really carve through this traffic.
I just don't race Clark on pit lane. Not sure what's up with that, but that 22 car was on par for a top 5. Not going to be the case tonight. He has to come in and service that machine.
Yeah, he fell off about 20 laps ago. His pace just fell off. So I don't know if he had contact with the wall that just messed up his car enough that he just wasn't on the pace anymore. But let's see, he had the 22 almost coming out of pit lane. He had to catch the car. Almost looked like he just about lost it.
Oh yeah, there's a
went
look
up
at
on
it.
the racing line.
There's another look at it as he was leaving pit lane. Gas it up and slip sideways. He managed to keep it on the apron, but a scary moment there for the 22, but he'll get back in it 3 laps down, but he'll probably be stuck here for a while. David Wilson in 3rd, but behind it's Robert Hill Jr. in 4th. And now he's the next one on the chopping block as Jadrosic has officially gone a lap down. And here comes Gruenberg. Can he lap everyone? But, I mean, oh man. He could.
He is.
He could lap everyone but Levi Zielinski.
Zielinski, yes, he could. Absolutely, he could.
That would be a feat.
And he's actually, I think now that he's gotten past Jadrosic, he's gotten some clean air there behind Robert Hill Jr., and he has opened that gap up on Zielinski again. So,
wow.
Gruenberg really showing that he's got the pace whenever he wants it.
He has just found something in that car that no one else has been able to harness tonight. And David Wilson is just a couple seconds up the road. We still have 13 to go. And right now, Wilson is lapping at a 24.804. And that's about a half a second slower than Matt Gruenberg, which means that Gruenberg is going to get there. Wow. I mean, that would be crazy if the 54 could lap everyone but the second place car. And I thought this race has been incredibly competitive, but if you looked at the timing screen, you'd never guess that with how spread out this is.
No, you wouldn't. You would not guess that. Really, really good racing going on here, though. Disappointing to see Jadrosic fall back from Robert Hill Jr. there. And
that was setting up to be a really spicy result there, but now he's got Justin Kolb all over him for 5th. So as he was battling for 4th, now he's got to fight just as hard to keep that 52 behind him. How about Justin Kolb having a good day in that 52? As we close in on 10 laps to go, Matt Gruenberg closing on that purple machine of David Wilson up the road. 10 to go here at Dover, the Monster Mile. It's been a monster to some drivers tonight. And wow, Jadrosic got a rear bumper full of that 52.
So 9 cars tonight, DNF.
And again, I really don't feel like this has been I mean, 23 cars still running isn't bad, but you look at, we have a lot of cars that are multiple laps down. And I'm just so surprised that it's as spread out as it is, because it doesn't seem, I don't feel like this has been a boring race at all. It's been a very exciting race.
No, it's been a fantastic race,
but it's all so spread out. I don't understand how it got like that, to be honest.
Well, 1 mile track, you're looking at 23-second laps. And, you have a quarter second a lap difference here and there. Every 5 drivers, you get a quarter second a lap difference. It doesn't take too many laps for everybody to get spread out. And we've been running green flag for quite a while now, so.
That is true. I'm trying to find, here it is. There is your battle between the 39 of Wilson and the 54 of Matt Gruenberg on the track map. You see, really that gap is closing very quickly. It's only about a second or two as we have 7 laps to go, and I'm thinking that 54 is going to get there. It's only a couple more car lengths. Yeah,
I can't imagine he won't be able to get there. And even if he doesn't, it's still quite the amazing feat to lap everybody except for 2nd and 3rd. Really phenomenal pace from Gruenberg tonight, and hasn't hardly set a foot wrong. I saw him chasing down Sweeting there early on and getting a little bit loose coming out of the corners because he was overdriving the car, it looked like. But other than that, really just spot on driving. And as he goes by David Wilson there.
Wow, that is incredible. And we just got an update from Chuck Sweeting. It was not internet. He had to go take care of something, so unfortunately, wasn't internet, which makes that a little bit better, but still an unfortunate way to end the race for him tonight. More important things going on, and we all know real life comes first there. So 26 out of the race, 26th position. So checking back in, Grunberg has almost a half a lap lead over second place. And
has lapped everyone else.
That is incredible. 3 laps to go, 3 miles left at the Monster Mile for the 54 Matt Grunberg. It's been a heck of a season as we take a quick look at the points from the previous race, up to the previous race. Take a look at the 54 Matt Grunberg. He is leading the points with a win, 3 top 5s and 3 top 10s in 5 prior races. Well, you're going to add another win to that column and another top 5, another top 10, and he'll extend his lead over David Wilson, who is running third, but not by a whole lot. David Wilson's going to manage to stay in a pretty good spot. Zielinski's going to jump up a ton of spots in the points this week, but 2 laps to go now for Matt Grunberg.
Yeah, really solid day for Zielinski and Wilson. And then, you know, I keep talking about it. Then again, Robert Hill Jr. started 27th, sitting in 4th spot. Gadersic started 24th, sitting in 5th spot. Nick Miller in 9th place, started 32nd, dead last. Richard Hines sitting in 10th, started 28th. So some big movers up here in this top 10 for sure.
Half a lap left for Matt Grunberg. He dominated the later portions of this race. Through turns 3 and 4, he's going to add another victory to the column early in the season. Matt Grunberg comes out of turn 4, an absolutely dominant performance. He picks up the checkered flag at Dover Raceway tonight. What a drive.
Started 23rd and drove his way to the front and then drove away from the rest of the field.
Wow. And Levi Zielinski, sometime later today, picks up his checkered flag for second. A great run for him in P2. You talked about him. He picked the right driver to win on Saturday, and he just needed one more spot to win this race tonight here at Dover.
One more spot and half a lap.
So checkered flag flies, and of course, it's become a very familiar sight to see this bright yellow Jegs. Ford on the Cup side and Toyota on the truck side to be in victory lane. It was in victory lane last night, and this is also his second weekend sweep of the year. So he has just been killing it in 3-wide action this season. And it looks like 54 Grunberg can go to victory lane yet again. Take a look at your race results as they scroll across the screen. Zielinski, Wilson, Robert Hill. Giadersic managed to sneak in a top 5 just at the end. Bulb, Lafferty, Lindsay, Miller, and Hines. All guys that started towards the tail of the field. They're going to get themselves a solid top 10. We mentioned guys like Chad Frankfield and Tate Lytle, who probably should have had better finishes tonight, but just got mired back on pit strategy and that yellow flag falling at inopportune times. And Matt Grunberg just blew that motor out, so he did one heck of a burnout there.
Go big or go home.
Absolutely. And, of course, Tanner Sharp, Sam Close, Kyle Hanshaw, Chuck Sweeting, Wade Lear, Brent Miller, all these guys did not have a great result tonight. Brent Miller dead last after a collision way back on lap number 40. So he is out and crash damage for the 89. Better luck next week. We're not done quite yet. We're going to interview the drivers and the winners. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back live to SYM TV here now with fourth place finisher, the driver the number 61, Robert Hill Jr. Robert, a great result for you, and you've only been in the Cup Series for a couple starts so far, but obviously have found some very good pace. A top 5 at a tricky track like Dover, that's got to feel like a victory tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. My Rebel Racing guys definitely helped me out tonight. Took advantage of some pit stops, pit strategy. That last stop, we ran it empty, and it worked out. Got us up in the top 5, and we were able to stay up there. I'm definitely happy with that so early into my 3-wide career.
Talk to me a little bit about the track tonight, because we did see it. It was pretty hot and toasty out there. The rubber got laid down pretty thick. Did you make moves on the outside? Was the bottom the place to be? How did you kind of reconcile that throughout the run?
You could definitely make moves on the high side. I preferred the low side. That's just where I kept all night. It was a little slick. You were getting a little loose off the corners from time to time, but it was fun. This package was awesome here compared to most tracks. I think this one's a win for sure.
Well, Dover, a conventional racetrack for these cars, but next week we head to Motegi, the track in Japan, kind of a Darlington-esque egg-shaped oval. Expectations for next week before we head off to the Roval on the 24th?
I've always been a fan of Motegi. I think we can compete in the top 10. That's our goal. I'm not going to say we're going to go out there and win, but I'd be disappointed if we don't get a top 10.
All right, well, a top 5 tonight for the 61, Robert Hill Jr. Robert, thanks for chatting with us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too. And we're going to talk to, I think, Levi Zielinski next, because I don't have a hold of... Actually, let me just double-check one more time. I don't see the 39 of David Wilson. He probably had it somewhere to be, so we'll talk to Levi Zielinski next, who finished second tonight in that number 6 car. Levi, I hear that on Saturday you picked the driver to win. That was Joshua Banks. He ended up winning that race tonight. One spot short of a victory. Tell us about your night. It was a good run for you in that 6.
Yeah, definitely had I had a spotter tonight, which definitely helped. I thought the high side would be the better groove. Obviously, as we kept on running, I was told where Matt was running on the track, which was that very bottom groove, almost on the apron, and I ended up switching my lanes up and switching where I was running, and ended up going to the very bottom, and it was faster, just being more easy in the corners, and helped a lot, especially off the corner. So I was able to get a little bit lower off the corner to get more speed on the straightaway, which we were really fast. I mean, I feel like we were probably one of the fastest during the middle of the runs, especially during the long run. I think we had the faster car. It was just, unfortunately, we had a pit road mishap at that last one that gave us, or put us probably about 3 seconds behind already. So that didn't help us much.
I asked Robert the same question, but conventional racetrack here at Dover. We've been here a bunch of times, but Motegi next week and then the Charlotte Roval after. Are you nervous for those 2 races? Because they're about as different as you can get a week apart from each other, and very different from Dover.
I don't even own twin, whatever you call it. So I gotta buy that along with the new Lucas Oil truck tomorrow. But I've never ran there. I don't know what it's like, so it's gonna be interesting. It'll be my first time there. Is it an oval? I think, right?
Yeah, it's an oval. It's kind of wide. It's like a flatter and wider Darlington, but it's definitely really tricky and kind of slick as well.
Oh, okay. Oh, we'll do pretty good at there, I think, if it's kind of like Milwaukee Mile and stuff like that in New Hampshire. We seem to do better at those short tracks that are flat surface, so I really enjoy that type of racing. So I think we definitely have a short package this year. Our short series is definitely the best we've been. Like, obviously, Bristol, we had a really good run. Tonight, we had a really good run. So these mile and less are where our money is. So hopefully we can just get another top 5 there. And then I think Charlotte Roval is going to be interesting. It's not my best road course by far, but I think I'm confident enough to at least get a top 10. Definitely been working on that road side, so that's hopefully where I can get it at.
All right, so a second place for Levi tonight. And also, Levi, thanks for helping fill in on Saturday night. Appreciate that, by the way.
No problem. I'd just like to thank you guys for broadcasting this every week and all that. You guys do a great job, and obviously I kind of felt like it's very hard to broadcast, so like I definitely give you hands down props for that. Just like to thank Corey and all he does for the league and all that in 3-wide. So thank you guys. Have a good night.
All right, appreciate it, Levi. Have a good one. We'll see you later.
No problem.
All right, so that was Levi Zielinski, who finished second tonight, and now we'll talk to race winner Matt Gruenberg, who led this race for the majority of the later half and ended up winning it by a huge margin, lapping everyone but second place. Matt, your second weekend sweep of the year, and a dominant race in the late going. A victory again, second time this season. what made you so good around here? I mean, you don't have a better setup than everyone else, so how'd you win by 12 seconds and lap the entire field?
Well, a few of my competitors that were pretty close, Chuck, I'm not sure what happened to him, but on that final pit stops there, he just seemed to disappear. I thought he was actually going to come out in front of me since he short pitted, but like I said, he just disappeared, so I don't know. And then Tate, I know he ended up getting speeding on exit, so that really took out the two closest guys that were to me, and then I guess it was just Levi was the only one left there at the end to make it somewhat of a race. I don't know, it was just mostly just managing the tires. I noticed a lot of guys were going up high early in the runs and kind of chewing up the right front, doing that, and I just kind of kept it on the bottom the whole time and just conserved the tires, and was able to work out for us and to build that big lead that we had. So
it's been a great season for you so far and leading the point standings as we head to a couple tracks that might be a bit more uncertain. Motegi next week, and then the week after, or I think we might have an off week somewhere, maybe not, somewhere in between there, but then it's the Charlotte Roval. So a couple challenging racetracks. Expectations to win both of those things, or just looking for top 5s or top 10s?
Well, whenever we go to a road course, I don't expect to win any of those. So, yeah, definitely not on the road courses. But Motegi seems like it'll be an interesting racetrack. I don't know how much experience anybody else has there, but I know I don't have any. So it'll be a fresh start, and we'll see how much speed we have when we go there.
All right.
Next in 2 weeks, I think.
Yep. So Matt Grunberg wins again, and it's been a multiple win season for the 54 in both series so far. So Matt, thanks for talking to us, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming back tonight.
Appreciate
Missed
it.
you last night.
All right. Thanks, Matt. We'll see you later.
Yep.
All right, Brian, well, that pretty much wraps it up here at Dover. A 200-lap race. Grunberg dominates. Levi Zielinski, Wilson, Robert Hill Jr., and Kevin Jatter sit your top 5. Very competitive race, but big margins wouldn't make you think that, but I'm pretty satisfied with how that one went.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw some fantastic racing. I mean, clearly a dominant performance by Matt Grunberg, but generally throughout the rest of the field, really tight, solid racing, and very little aggression, over-aggression, that is. We saw people making moves. We saw people going for gaps, but we didn't see people doing too much beating and banging and getting too combative with each other. So really, really top-notch show that these guys put on tonight.
Absolutely. So with that being said, next week we head to Motegi. Actually, we have a week off next week. So not next week, but it's going to be Motegi the week after. Then it's the Charlotte Roval the week after that. So week off, then Motegi, then Charlotte Roval. And then also in the trucks next week, we have Montreal, then Dirt Charlotte on the 23rd. So Montreal will be next Sunday night. And then tomorrow night for fuel, we head to Martinsville. Some short track racing tomorrow evening. Then Wednesday, it's Spec MX5 Sim Racing Challenge from Sonoma on Winding Road Magazine's channel. That link is available now. And then on Thursday, Scars Ferrari Challenge heads to Motegi. So we got a little bit of a preview there on the road course. And then Friday, the Virtual Racing League returns, this time to New Hampshire, before they go to New Hampshire on Saturday as well for Outsider Racing League. That's what's coming up this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Fuel, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching.